Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everyone. I would like to call this meeting of the Finance Committee Tuesday, December the 9th, 2025 to order. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tla'amin Nation, as well as all Coast Salish First Nations on whose traditional territories we have the honor to live, including my home on Wai'ete, also known as Laskiti Island. We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes anyone would like to make or a motion to adopt it? Director Gisborne to adopt. Is there a seconder? Director McCormick. Okay, is there discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. We have an approval adopted. First up, minutes from November the 12th. Are there any changes or errors anyone noticed? And if not, would someone like to move adoption of the minutes? Director Gisborne, Director Southcott, discussion on the minutes from November 12th? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. We have adopted minutes. Very good. I don't see any delegations unless there are any in the room. Is there an unregistered delegation?
They're just
Oh,
checking if Mr. David or not, Tom, would you like to make delegation today? We're at the point on the agenda. No? Okay, thank you.
no. Okay. So we have no delegations. No unfinished business correspondence. So we're on to reports 8.1, Northside Recreation Budget Amendment. So that's to approve an amendment for completion. And first, maybe because this is a little different. So maybe if there's any questions for Ms. Greenan, I see her on the call here. So on the meeting here, are there any questions for that? If there, oh, Director Lennox, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and probably from Ms. Greenan. I read the report, pretty straightforward. This looks like a good thing. We're taking charge of business, getting it done a little earlier than anticipated, and there's no drawbacks to doing so. Correct?
Yes, through the chair. Yes, this is
Yes,
a
go
good
ahead.
news story, and we are ahead of schedule. I could get Mick to talk a little bit more about that if you like.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through the chair, the construction progress has been right on schedule. Some of the works that the contractor had anticipated to happen in 2026 are actually now going to happen in 2025. So we've taken some money out of that 2026 budget and we'll move it into 2025 so that we can cover those costs off. Project's moving along great. We're moved on to roofing. Electrical, mechanical, plumbing systems are in, drywalls going up, mudding and taping, doors, windows. Yeah, it's a really good news story, and we're really looking forward to taking possession of the building in March 31st of the 2026.
Thank you.
Excellent. I have one question for Ms. Greenan, which is, I mean, I think I know the answer, but how certain is this money? I mean, if this money isn't all actually spent, is it all already committed? But if it isn't actually spent in the next 21 days or 22 days, does that just then roll over as surplus? Is that what would happen in this case? Or is it certain? Is this the exact amount that will be kind of a check cut out of the service?
Thank you through the chair. No, it will be, if it's not spent by the end of December 31st, then it will roll over as surplus for the capital project in 2026. And then the actual cost for 2026, we're expecting it to be at that amount, but it could come under. It's hard to tell exactly where it will land.
Okay, that's great. I mean, that's what I thought would happen, and it's fantastic news, and I think this will just push things back a month, I guess, and then whatever carries over will go over. Okay, so I don't, Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. I was just in the interest of such good news, I was going to move the recommendation.
Oh, excellent. Is there a seconder for that? Director Gisborne, discussion on the motion before us. Director Lennox, go ahead.
Just again, nice work. Good to get some good news, and driving by it every day. All of us in the neighborhood is seeing that progress, and it's nice to hear a few details because you wonder with all the rain coming down, if are we buttoned up, but if we're putting up drywall and things like that, sounds like we're on track, and looking forward to March, I guess. That's great. Thank you.
Excellent. Is there any other discussion on the motion on the table? Seeing no hands up, I will call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. That carries unanimously. Most excellent. Okay, item 8.2 is the 2026 revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw. And maybe I'll just ask Ms. Greenan if she wants to just give a quick overview of that. I think we've all seen this before. It's a regular thing that comes every year, but I'll let Ms. Greenan give the explanation.
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. Yes, this is just a regular, an annual process that we use. It allows us to have a $1.5 million line of credit in case we access it. We have never accessed it, but it does allow us to have that in case we need to access it until our requisition comes in August. And that also allows us to have $200,000 for the corporate credit cards, and then $50,000 for the irrevocable letter of credit for the Texada Island transfer station.
That's great. Thank you for that. Are there any questions for Ms. Greenan before we get a motion about what's happening? Seeing none. Does someone want to make a motion? Director McCormick, seconded by.
I'll make the motion,
Oh,
but I
quite.
also have a quick question. What did Ms. Greenan mean by Texada transportation? 50,000.
Okay, well, before I hand that over, if you made the motion, maybe I'll get a seconder for that first. Okay, Director, just so we're not stuck in limbo here. Okay, go ahead. So, Ms. Greenan, do you hear the question, or would you like Director McCormick to repeat it?
No, thank you. I heard the question. Actually, I might direct that to Patrick Devereaux, our Manager of Operational Services.
Okay, Mr. Devereaux, are you with us here? There you are.
I am, Chair. Just wait for my video to start. Excuse me. Through the chair. I did not get the question though.
Oh,
I heard Texada transfer station or Texada transportation.
Director McCormick, do you want to ask again?
Ms. Greenan said, or perhaps I could just ask her to repeat the statement about monies set aside for Texada transportation. Is this to do with the expanded bus service?
Oh, no, thank you, Chair, through the chair. Sorry, it's a 50,000 irrevocable letter of credit to the province. We had to give them a letter of credit for the transfer station, the Texada transfer station.
Oh, the transfer station.
Transfer station.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, is that good? Mr. Devereaux?
Yes, through the chair, I just elaborate on that a little bit. That's for lot 6, the metal storage area, and it's about our lease, and they charge us that kind of deposit or liability to protect the Crown land against contamination because it's a waste site.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. And is there any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion and noting that if the recommendation includes a clause to forward it to our board meeting on Thursday.
It's been moved and seconded, Chair.
Okay, Director. Oh, it's been moved. Thank you, Director Gisborne. I'll get back on track here. So we have so no more discussion. I don't see any hands up. I will just go to call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. That is carried unanimously. Very good. Moving along, Lund Waterworks, debt recovery options, updated report. What is the Director Lennox?
Thank you, Chair. I'm moving to table this item. Postpone. Thank you for correction.
Postpone until a particular time, just to postpone.
Until we have further information. I can elaborate.
Okay, is there a second, Director Gisborne? Okay, go ahead, Director Lennox. Corporate Officer?
Second. We should probably know when we're postponing to. So we should be quite clear what information we're reviewing. Can we say postpone?
Definitely for a future meeting. It's very simple. I have new information for all of us. And I think it's quite appropriate that we postpone, and we'll be able to consider that and make better decisions later. Sorry to speak to it.
Yeah, no, it's good. Well, we need, ideally, we would know when it's being, what would be the triggering mechanism to bring it back, I guess.
Well, we're already working, just to be clear here, we're already working on those conditions that will bring this item back before us very clearly. We've discussed it before. It's on our list of considerations that we've been talking about for Lund Water. But again, just since we're talking about it now, Corporate Officer, do you want to interrupt me? Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead, Corporate Officer.
I think maybe, so if we were waiting for information from a community group, or if we were waiting for information from Director Lennox. We just want to specify
Okay.
that we're not postponing
To
indefinitely.
be clear, I have new information from the receiver that's very pertinent to this, and I think it's quite appropriate to postpone into a future meeting, and that will be quite soon in the spring.
So just so we know what we're talking about, direct corporate officer, would that be postpone, or yes, Dr. Lennox as well, postponing until we've considered and received and considered information from the receiver? Is that something like that? Does that make sense?
Summarizing that, Chair.
Okay. Is that okay with Director Lennox? Is that okay with the corporate officer?
Yes,
We
thank
have-
you, Chair.
Okay, very good. Director Lennox, did you want to speak more to?
And it's been moved and seconded, I believe.
Yeah, it's been moved and seconded now, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be any more detailed. I think it's pretty clear from the discussions we already had. It's quite appropriate, and I think you'll appreciate that extra time.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the motion to postpone? Seeing no hands up, then I will call the question. All those in favor? And none opposed. That is postponed until we discuss this forthcoming information. Okay, we are on to 8.4, Director's Remuneration.
Sorry, Chair.
Director Lennox, sorry. Thanks, Director Gisborne. I was looking
Sorry,
at my...
Director Elliott, but I would like to also move to take this particular item in camera.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that?
Well, just perhaps I can help with a motion to move in camera.
Thank you.
So I suggest that we go in under section 91K and 2BII.
Thank you for that.
Now, do we need a motion for this, corporate officer, or do we just read that section out and then discuss that with the agenda in camera?
If these are the assembly and the chair, I could read the motion.
Thank you. That would be
Okay.
very.
And I guess just to be clear, we're going in camera right now. Would that be the process, since we don't have an in-camera session?
Chair, I
So
think that's a good idea.
yeah, okay, let's do that right now then. Okay, thank you. It's been moved.
Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll just share the motion because
Okay.
Thank you.
For-
Be sure the motion, we'll make sure it's been moved and seconded. I think Director Lennox and Director
Chair.
Gisborne, even though we'll be sure we're seeing the words and then
Lund water.
Not director of remuneration.
No. No, you're on track.
okay, so there's our motion.
Thank you. It's a bit wordy, but.
Maybe Director Gisborne wants to. No, you can give it. Does someone want to read out louder if we need to?
We need to read it. But...
We don't actually need to read it.
I don't think we need to. Okay, we can see it. And any member of the public can read that because it's on their screen. Okay, so that's been moved and seconded. Director Elliott, did you have your hand up?
I actually forgot my initial question.
Okay.
I guess
That's cool.
when we were postponing to a meeting earlier, we were going to a date after we'd received and considered information from an outside source, but we didn't actually have a date on that. And then I heard fairly soon and then the spring. And so I don't know if fairly soon in the spring were the same thing. So I wanted to ask a question about what the estimated time might be.
Okay, fair enough.
It had to do with this item.
I don't know who has an answer to that. Maybe Director Lennox can start. Or corporate off or CAO.
Thank you.
Oh, nice to see you in the rooms, Mr. CAO Radke. It's great you're here.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think that's going to be slightly organic, but it's not going to be prolonged indefinitely.
But not before Christmas.
No.
All right, carry on then. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, so we have a motion on the table to move in camera. It's been moved in second. Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And just to keep it simple for folks watching as well, because some people couldn't attend, right now, this is not our service. And we've had a request and new information from the receiver and the advisory committee. And I want to talk about that and be fair to them and respect them.
Okay, fair enough. So we have, so is there any other discussion on the motion to move in camera? Seeing no hands up, I will call the question. All those in favor? None opposed, so we are moving in camera.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome back. We are back in open session from a side trip into an in-camera session, and moving on to item 8.4 in our agenda, which is Director's Remuneration and Expense Amendment Bylaw. Are there any questions anyone would have on this, or would someone like to make a motion? Director Elliott?
Package?
Okay, Director, seconded by Director Brander. Say we have that on the table. Is there any discussion on this item? Around the table, I don't see any hands up, so I will then call the question. All those in favor? None opposed? That carries unanimously, and that'll come to us on Thursday. Okay, on to item 8.5, the 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan Draft 1. Just as a little background of where we got here, in September, the board set out a planning process that included drafts in financial plan drafts for December, February, and March. So in January, we won't get an update. We may be able to continue discussions on this one. The first draft provides an initial picture of expectations regarding planned projects, cost changes, inflation, revenue, etc. Given that the 2025 year isn't yet finished, the actual revenues and expenditures, and especially expenditures, are incomplete for 2025, and so should be viewed as provisional. And I expect some items are harder to estimate. At this point, some of the line items are difficult to estimate. In addition, I note that in addition to the recommendation to accept draft 1, which is in our cover of our agenda, there are 2 options regarding timeframes for budgeting salaries and wages using time and motion studies, one for the current practice of using the calendar year and an alternative to use the 12 months ending each September 30th. So I'm sure Ms. Greenan will explain that a bit to us. Before getting into questions and discussions and motions, I will pass it over to Linda Greenan, our Manager of Financial Services, to give us an overview.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, I just wanted to mention about the question about moving the time and motion study. We always base it on the previous year, and I had a discussion subsequent to writing this report with the CAO, and he thought it wasn't actually something that needed a board motion. So we might just move to that, to that schedule if there's no objection, of course.
Okay, that's great. That was one of my questions till I saw the option there. So okay, yeah, that's great.
Okay, so I do have a short presentation, and I'll share my screen now. So you can see my screen.
Not yet. It's coming up. Yes, yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm pleased to present the draft 1 of the 2026 to 2030 financial plan for the Cathat Regional District. I just wanted to review what I'll go through with this presentation. I'll review again the budget process, the assumptions that went into developing the plan. I'll go over some highlights of what is included in the plan for 2026, and I'll also review some service level changes. There's been a number of service increases, and just wanted to review those. I'll also review some reserve fund concerns that have come to my attention. And then finally, I'll go through the projected cost per $100,000 and the cost per average home. We do have a BC assessment has let us know that there is a risk to the roll from the mill property, the change in the mill property values. So I've also looked at the cost per 100,000 and the cost per average home, incorporating that risk to the roll. So the budget process, we start in July, and all of the managers talk to their committees. They look at the OCPs, they look at and they look at the strategic plan, and try to figure out, how to budget for the future years. We've also tried to, again, reduce the reliance on prior year surplus, because we want to make sure that our services are sustainable. And while we did that, we're also trying to keep our budgets really tight so that we don't have, so that we don't expect any surplus at the end of the year. We always plan that we won't have any surplus, but sometimes things don't get done, and or things get pushed to the next year, and so we end up with a surplus. But we did try very hard this year to keep them really tight so that there won't be any surpluses. We've separated operations and capital. And the reason we do that is that we want to make sure that that capital isn't funded from tax requisition. We should always try to fund it from grants, borrowing, or reserves, so that we're not relying on a requisition that could go up and down year over year. And then the reserve fund contributions are estimated. They're based on, you know, we try to look at what we have for capital plans. But of course, an optimal reserve fund contribution could mean a huge tax increase. So, you know, we've just tried to get some money into the reserves and, you know, where we do have really good information, like for example, for the fire departments, we do try to have a more accurate reserve fund contribution, but a lot of the reserve fund contributions are just estimated based on what we think will be needed in the next 5 years and what the requisition will bear without causing a massive increase. The assumptions that go into developing the financial plan is operational costs. We have specific costs that we, you know, have estimates for, or we have a 3 to 5% increase on a lot of the recurring costs. Return on investments, we're projecting 2%. As a consumer price index, we're projecting 3% in this budget. Where we use the consumer price index is where we have contracts, you know, our contractors that have a CPI increase incorporated into their contracts. But it looks like CPI is actually going to be less than that. So that will be updated once we have the actual CPI at the end of January. Future borrowing, because we don't know when the borrowing will happen exactly, we've projected 5 to 6%. And the payroll allocations are based on the 2024 time and motion study. So those will change, you know, once we get the actual time and motion study for 2025. So some of the budget highlights, you know, these are things that we plan to do in the 2026 budget cycle. We have the local government election, so that will take a lot of staff time and resources. As we just talked about the Lund water system conversion, Sabre Island OCP completion is scheduled for 2026. In the regional parks, there's quite a few projects, but I've just highlighted a few in these slides. There's a replacement of the Shelter Point Park on-site footbridge, Palm Beach Park, the replacement of the washroom and concession roof. Craig Park, there's a renovation to the cookhouse with gazebo supports. And Cla Amen Lund Gazebo Park, there's gazebo siding repairs. At the cemetery, we plan to have a new columbaria, which the board approved at the last meeting. Waste management, there's quite a number of initiatives at the waste management service. There's an interchange oil and household hazardous waste recycling program, building supply reuse center in cooperation with Inclusion. And there's a new Lund recycle depot going in, a replacement of the Lasqueti Island free store roof, and a fire suppression system improvements at the Resource Recovery Center. And we'll also have renewal of the 10-year solid waste management plan. Budget highlights for the fire services. Malaspina Fire, there's an SCBA decontamination machine, replacement of heat pump and windows at hall number 1. Lasqueti Fire, replacement of engine 94 with a used apparatus, which was approved, partially funded from a community works funding. Sabre Island Fire, there's a septic system repairs at hall number 1 and a new gurney for the first responders. Northside Fire, they are going to correct the mismatched water tanks at hall number 2. Myrtle Pond Water, we're replacing the recirculating pump impeller, and of course, we're putting in the new well. And Lund Sewer, replacing the sewer pumps and replacing the anodes for the clarifier and treatment tank pump. On Texada Island, there is completion to the renovations to the Texada Island Community Hall, resurfacing of the tennis court, electrical upgrades at the farmers market, and replacement of the fence at Sandpiper's Preschool. Texada Island Airport, there's runway crack sealings that will be underway, and the terminal resident carpet will be replaced. In general, so some service level changes. In general administration, There've been some additions to the workload, and one of those is the new Community Works Fund Committee and an increased number of regional hospital district meetings. Those have to be taken into account. And I will be in January, I will be coming to the board with a consideration of how we charge the hospital district and maybe a change to the administration fee. Kahamen Lund Gazebo Park, there's a new washroom building going in. The lines were put in this year, and then the washroom building will be constructed in 2026. And sewer extension, septic tank, and washroom pump to support that building. In the rural paratransit service, there is expansion of the Texada Island route planned for 2026. And then there is, we're not sure if it's going to happen yet, but planned expansion of the Stillwater route. And then in 2027, planned expansion of the Lund route. So all of these service level changes do generally mean more costs to the service. Northside Recreation, we will be completing the Community Hall addition. The Malaspina Fire Protection System service. There is an installation of washing facilities at Hall number 1, a new washroom facility at Hall number 2, and a 5,000-gallon water tank at Hall number 1. In Northside Volunteer Fire Protection Service, there's a storage shed for the fire training props at Hall number 2, and they're installing mobile CAD into the fire apparatus fleet. In the rural services, Lund Sewer, we will be installing a SCADA system at Texada Island. That the SCADA system is to monitor the sewer system. Texada Island Airport, there will be a septic system installed and a new sign. And on Sabre Island Marine, there's a wharf fire protection that is planned. So some concerns I wanted to bring to the board's attention are that the reserve levels are not sustainable at either of the utilities. So Myrtle Pond Water System, the reserves are quite low at $142,735. We have quite a tight operating budget, and we do maintain a $30,000 operating reserve, and that is mainly for repairs, major repairs and maintenance that come up, because the reserves can't be used for major repairs. Reserves can only be used for capital. And so at that service, we have a $46,874 contribution planned for 2026, which is quite light for the water system. The Lund sewer system, the reserves are projected at $91,818, and it's only a $2,072 contribution in 2026. So we've reduced the contribution basically to fit within the total revenue collection that we get. We've based on what the user fees that have been approved and the approved parcel taxes. So we will need more funds for required major repairs and capital upgrades. And we will be coming to the board in January or February with some potential changes to the user fees and potentially the parcel taxes. The fire services, the board did receive the report on the capital asset management for the fire services. And while we're getting there, they're not sustainable to maintain all of our capital replacement plans. So without increases, there will be debt financing or community works that will be required for asset replacements or grants, but the grants are harder to come by for fire services. As far as the tax rates, these are based on the 2025 revised roll values. And as we won't have the 2026 completed roll values until the end of December, so that will be incorporated into draft 2. So we're looking at tax rates between $92 per 100,000 within the city of Paul River and up to $339.15 in Area A. And that's a change of between $20 and negative 60 cents per 100,000. And then if we look at the revised roll, including the risk to roll values, it doesn't mean a big change. You're basically looking at $340.36 in Area A and now $93 in the city. So it's not a big change. Like it's only a dollar or so for each each service. And as far as average home value, we are looking at the of course the revised rural values, and we're looking at the average home values of for both years. For 2025, we're looking at the cost of an average home as the same cost in 2026 until we get the new values. So we're looking at, for an average home, a decrease for the city of Paul River of $3.50 and $85.51 in area A, 64 Savory, $87 in area B, $98 in area C, $34 in area D, and about $111 in area E. And if we incorporate the risk to roll, those change to an increase of $3.55 for the city, $92 in area A, $70 in Sabre Island, $95 in area B, $106 in area C, and $39 in area D, and $117.25 in area E. So that completes my presentation. If the board had any questions, the draft, as Director Falls said, the second draft will be coming forward in February.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Greenan. So I would like to offer now questions to Ms. Greenan about the contents of the draft, and I guess if the process, I mean, the main motion in the agenda would be to, adopt it as our guiding principle, adopted as draft one. If there are any changes, those can be made as motions along the way. But I think, let's get out some questions first. And I see Director Elliott. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The tables you were presenting about the changes don't include the reported out changes, which would be change requests that have yet to be improved, or do they include those the changes that you talked about? Are the changes included already in those numbers?
Yes, everything that I've discussed is included in this package.
Okay, so we talked about the new committee for the community works being part of the general admin, and the committee doesn't include the city, but that is part and parcel with the lack of a service to put it in, or?
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. So the new committee, the Rural Services Committee, that is administered through the General Administration Service. Or actually, no, I guess you're right. It would be administered through the Electoral Area Administration Service.
Okay, so you reported it in general admin. So I just wanted to clarify that simply because the city is excluded from that committee. Those are my questions. Oh, and the hospital district increases, we would probably need to charge those back to the hospital to keep the correct tax base paying for the costs that are generated there, correct? Or
yes, through the chair, that's correct. So I will be coming to the board with some changes to the amount that we charge the hospital district and how we charge the hospital district. Right now, we charge them $100,000 administration fee, and then we charge direct costs to the hospital district. So we might want to look at, we're going to look at, get a better read on what our actual costs are now to administer the hospital district and come to the board with some changes. So that would, if there were some increases to what we charge the hospital district, then that would be a reduction to the general administration service.
Thank you. One last question.
Go ahead.
I know that we are seem to be ready on all sides, the city and the regional district, to talk about the renewal of the recreation service agreement. And how do we build some flexibility for money to actually include in the negotiations that haven't been decided yet? And what's the, how do we know we can respond to changes in that? We don't?
Thank you, through the chair. I think that would be, and we would need a board motion, so we could, the board could make a motion to increase that contribution estimate to the maximum if you want to have that ability to have some flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Is there other questions? Okay, Director Southcott and then Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair.
And then Director Gisborne.
Thanks, Mr. Greenan, for this report and review, and stayed up till like 12:30 last night for this whole report. And I've made my own little index here of where the pages are to quite a few of the things that turned up in your slides. Yeah, because yeah, I'm interested. One thing that caught my eye, and I was looking for a way to figure this out myself, because I really like to try to figure things out myself, is on page, I think it's page 15, where the multiple subservice summary general administration. I noticed the percentage change is 17, just a bit over 17% between 25 and 26, which jumped out at me a little bit. And what I was trying to find was a description or an itemization of what all that general administration includes. I'm guessing that it includes quite a lot because the amounts are quite large. But I wonder if you could give me a nutshell answer on that, or point me in the direction of where I can actually read in more detail.
Okay, so it's right below it are the expenses that go into that service. So what you're looking at, the 17%, that's part of the revenues that we collect. And then if you go down the list, you'll see like salaries and wages, payroll benefits, and overhead, travel, training, contractors. Those are all the things that go into the general administration budget. And then we also have, you'll notice there's we get recoveries from other functions. So we charge like that's 797,865. Those are admin fees that we charge to other services for the service that general administration provides. But all of the costs are listed below on page 15 and 16. And 15, 16, 17, and 15, 16, 17, and then there's a little bit more on page 19.
Thank you. Maybe just to, if I may, I suppose more specifically, the question was how much of this is any of this divided down between or is charged out to other services, or is this specifically, like how is it divided? I know I understand that charges for a lot of administration is charged to other services.
Yeah, so what we do through the chair, what we do is we try to look at exactly what costs stay in general administration, but then when it comes to, like, for example, salaries and wages, then we look at where the manager spent their time over the year, and then we allocate the wages directly to those services. For example, the CAO and the corporate officer and the finance department, all of our wages are charged to a general administration. But then when you get to like the manager of operational services, the manager of capital assets and planning, those are charged out to the various services that they've spent time on over the years. So that's why I'm talking about the time and motion study that dictates how we allocate the salaries out. And then like for the director's remuneration, that is charged to between general administration and electoral area administration. And then for the other things like the when we have the strata fees, heat, hydro, all of those overhead costs, those are what we are trying to recapture with the recoveries from other functions. So we charge an administration fee to all of the other functions, and then that is makes up the 797,000 that offsets what is in the general administration service.
I think that's what I didn't understand. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for this, really detailed report. I guess, I'm trying to be sensitive to pressures on the taxpayer, as well as respect our need for asset management. And that's a tough balance. So my question really is about surpluses. And the statement in here on page 2 that we're reducing reliance on prior year surpluses. I'm wondering, do we have a policy on exactly how that happens? Is it just little surpluses? Or if there's a large surplus over and above the contributions to the reserve funds, could that not be rolled back into the operating budget for the next year? I'd hate to see surpluses in some, I know it's not all areas, but in some, grow beyond their requirements while we're taxing people more and more. So can you fill me in on that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, through the chair. I just wanted to mention, too, the budget is a 3.7% overall increase. So we've tried to make the budgets very tight. And as far as the surpluses, the problem that we have is that if we rely too much on surpluses, we might put in the 2027 budget, for example, that we are expecting a surplus of 240,000. But then if it doesn't come through, then we have to, bring the requisition up. And with the surpluses with each service, they do stay within the service. So if we have a surplus, for example, in general administration, we do plan to, if you look at general administration, we do plan that we will have, because it's a bigger service, we do plan that there will be we're thinking a $204,000 surplus this year. So we are bringing that forward to the next year. But in other services, we try to, if we can, roll those into their reserves, and it helps bolster their reserves. It's just to try and make the services more sustainable rather than trying to rely on a surplus that might not happen. And we have had that in the past, for example, with regional emergency, for example, we thought we were going to have a surplus and we ended up in a deficit. I think that was in 2024, and we had to recoup that. So like I say, we don't have a policy on it yet, and that is something that I am going to work on. I was hoping to bring that forward in 2026, and then that will give staff better direction on what you want done with those surpluses. And if there, like you said, Director McCormick, if there is there might be a value, maybe you say if the surplus is over this amount, then it goes back into the service, but this, smaller amounts would stay in the reserves.
Oh, go ahead, Director McCormick.
Thank you. Yeah, I really welcome that policy because right now it is kind of confusing. Some services are, the surplus goes into the reserve, some it doesn't, it gets added to the next year's budget or offset. So it's kind of like each one is different. So having a set policy to know how surpluses will be addressed, I think would be very, very helpful. Chair, I have a number of specific questions, about 4 specific questions. So if I ask one more now and then go on to the list for round 2, is that okay?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, so my first specific question under the topic of waste management, on page 5 of the report, the Texada Metal Transfer Station, cleanup and site improvements. I see there's $96,000 in the capital plan for this site. So I'm just wondering what's going to happen there.
Ms. Greenan, or is that for Mr. Cohenhoven?
I think that would be for Mr. Cohenhoven, Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Cohenhoven.
Thank you, through the chair. So this $96,000 has been on the plan for a few years now. And once we get the current scrap metal cleanup done, we're hoping to do we're hoping to do just some site organization. So we're going to fix up the access road, the gate, put in some signage for different material drop-offs, and then look at some dry storage for some of the tools and equipment. It has not been designed yet. We are still going to do a detailed design with the asset management team. But overall, this is just groundwork, and it's not a major construction of any kind.
It would be like a shelter when you say dry storage. It would be like a container or something like that.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Chair. I'll come back in round 2.
Okay, so next up, Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. I got a whole bunch of questions, but I'm going to try and narrow them down, make them really focused. My first question has to do with Myrtle Pond water system. And thanks for pointing out that our reserves are a bit low. One of the questions I have is when taking a look at page 238, which is, I believe, the page for capital plan. I see $5,000 for the research pump, but I also see $142,000. It says in camera, and $142,000 is pretty much what we're talking about for doing the well replacement. And I'm just wondering, is that $142,000 for the well, or is that for something separate?
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a typo. That is for the well replacement.
Okay, because I had someone ask the question. They were like, "Oh, wait, is there like a second well or something?" So, okay, that puts a lot of my concerns at ease. One of the other questions I ask myself quite often is we do 5-year financial plans. So 5 years ago, I think was 2022, and of course that goes all the way to 2026. Do we keep track of like how aligned we are with the 5-year financial plan? And just for the rest of the assembly, I know we see a general administration increase of I think around 17%, but when I took a look at the 2025, 2029 financial plan, it actually looks like we're a little bit below what we were allocating last year for 2026. So it looks like we're having a big tax increase for general administration, but that looks like it was planned for last year. So how do we, like, do we keep track of that 5-year? Like, do we go back 5 years, or is it kind of just, I'm just kind of curious because in this financial plan, it goes up to 2030. And some people might ask like, hey, how accurate is it going to be in 2030? And sometimes you go back and I'm just wondering, how do we track that? Or is that kind of it gets blurry the further away we are?
I think it's blurrier the further away we are, but I'll let Ms. Greenan answer that.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, yes, it is difficult to plan out, so that the 2026 plan is quite detailed, and we're trying to make the future plans more detailed, but it's difficult to plan, with the changes in prices, and so yeah, it's difficult to estimate the future 4 years, but we have pretty good estimates, we think, on the 2026 plan.
CAO has something to add for that?
Yes, through the chair. And I think it's important to learn that with the advent of this new software that we're using, we're getting better at those projections going outward, because we're also using our asset management system to help guide us on that. And without, I guess, just to be frank, we used to just sometimes use a standard number and say next year is going to be a 2% increase, 3%, whatever that was chosen. So that's why you may see some very different numbers if you're looking backwards historically. But with the introduction of this new software, we really think that we're taking that leap forward to be a little bit more accurate and relying on our asset management system to actually feed that information in there. Without having said anything falsely, I'll turn to General Manager of Financial Services to either correct me or concur.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. We are trying to get more accurate, and now we have, it's easier for us to now, put in the future plans. But this year it's our first time using the software, and so we haven't totally fleshed out the future years, but we'll just get better at it as we go.
Thank you. And just, one of the last comments I have is when I compared the 2026, 2030 financial plan, which we're looking at, with the 2025 to 2029 financial plan, it actually looks like there's a number of services that are below what our projected requisition was last year. So just that's some food for thought, everyone, that some of these increases, we were aware of them last budget cycle in 2025 in the spring. Thank you, Chair. And I'm also happy to hear that with the well construction, there'll still be, knock on wood, $142,000 still left in the reserves at Myrtle Pond Water. I hear you, those are very low, but that's, at least we're not spending $142,000 twice, so that put it to essentially zero. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, great. So I'll add myself on the list and seek anyone else who hasn't had a first time. I'll make a couple comments on some previous items. One is, I'll just quote Yogi Berra, who said, predictions about the future. Predictions are difficult, especially when they're about the future. So it's, I think that's what we're talking about. It's not that the future is inherently uncertain. It's more like a process of refining, as they come into focus, 4 years out, 3 years out, 2 years out. And then when we land it, that's the actual good. So, we can't predict what a future board will decide or what we'll decide next year. So things change, or inflation and all these others. I'd like to first thank staff for all the work and details that went into this. I really appreciate all the details. I like, it took a bit to readjust how, the new level of detail in the plan, but personally, I like it. I like the text. I like the descriptions and the breaking out. I think that's a lot of effort went into that, and I appreciated that. I do have a couple questions, and then maybe I just have only one item I would like to request changed. The election costs. So, I understand regional district, manages capably local government elections. And we do that not just for regional district local government elections, but also, the Islands Trust election on Lasqueti and the school district cost. So there's a mention in the report on the costs for that. Are those costs, do we get anything from the province or from those other entities, or is that a cost that's carried by the regional district? Ms. Greenan, and the corporate officer maybe helps too. But
okay. Thank you, Chair. I might direct that to the corporate officer.
Okay, corporate officer, your area of expertise.
I think if we look to page 21, you will see, am I correct there, Linda?
Yes, other revenue.
Yeah, so under other revenue, you'll see that we have $36,000 coming in to cover the cost of those different public bodies elections.
Right. And that's an EA admin, I hadn't noticed.
Yes, and you'll see there under 1234, that's where the election cost is budgeted for 80,000, but we should be getting about, based on 2022 numbers, about 36,000.
Okay. I was just curious about that because I kind of thought, well, hey, it's nice to nice that we do it, but and our staff do it and all the work, but we need to recuperate something. I guess I had one clarification on the general admin question by Director Southcott. I think, looking through, and this is maybe I'll turn it into a question and our corporate officer might ask. So we have, the net change of just a couple percent is of 2.3%. I just want to express appreciation for that. It's a tough service in a sense. It's covering a lot of things. There's a lot going on in records management, and a lot of our staff costs are in there. And the net increase in expenses is modest, but when you look at the ups and downs, so when you really want to get in the nuts and bolts into the weeds of it, it's some line items go up, some go down, and the biggest changes that account for that difference that Director Southcott was asking about relate to increases in payroll, but that's offset by decreases in consulting. So I think those are decisions related to staffing, and maybe a corporate officer may or may not be able to clarify, but we have some, I guess, additional staffing resources that are being covered there. Is that really and does that have anything, does that help with the consulting, or do we just have, is that just it's working out, or is that is there a relation there?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There is more information coming forward in January about that. Yeah, so there is a decrease in consultant work, and there is an increase in under salary and wages, and those are related a little bit, but you'll receive more information on that in January.
Okay, that's great, and that's the numbers are the where it comes down to, but yeah, we'll get more information, which would be great. I have a comment related to surpluses. I've also thought a lot about surpluses over the years, and we've done, the general process has been to try to put them in reserves, which is justified. And then sometimes we pulled them out, or other times, financial staff have proposed, or our managers have proposed they go into revenue. I really think a policy would be great. I really look forward to that. I think that's a perfect, be really useful for us to really understand, because in my mind, when there's small surpluses, less than some percentage, and I don't know what the number might be, but less than 1% of the revenue, putting that aside as for a rainy day makes sense. You have a little bit left over. It's like putting money in your piggy bank, empty your pockets out, just save it instead of doing putting it back into revenue. And also when surplus relates to planning, planned expenditures that were delayed for a year, that totally makes sense. So if something was planned and budgeted and then it wasn't done, you need the money for next year. But when the surpluses are large, either because of large savings on capital, which is a nice windfall, or because of contingencies. In some cases, there may be a rationale for having a fairly large contingencies for certain line items that often don't reach that amount. That may be a rationale, and I don't want to get into it right here, but I think the idea of having a rationale, a policy that could at least form a starting point, and then of course we'd have discussions and debates about whether to shift things between those. I think that would really be helpful, and then it would be clear why things are proposed in certain service items, and then when they're large, that's when we maybe want to pay a bit more attention to making decisions and having a deliberate process to decide whether what's the best use of that surplus. The last item, the only item I actually really want to make a suggested change on is let's see if I can get there, page 78 on the grants and aid. So page 79. So on page 79 of the grants and aid. So last year, you may have remembered, with this Last Resort Society, the Lasqueti grants and aid budget was around 11,000. We through the hospital district, we provided a grant of around 9,500, and then in our board meeting, we increased the budget by 9,500 about to provide an offsetting a matching grant, and we made that matching grant last finance committee, and the budget actually kept that amount, and so it's just, and I don't know if maybe and I'll ask Ms. Green if we need to make a motion for that. That was meant to be a one-off thing, so I think it I would like it to go back down to it can go up a little bit, 12,000. I think last year was 11,227 to be precise, and it could go down to 12,000.
Sure.
Yes.
You said page 79, but 79 of the report
Oh,
is Common Gazebo Park.
Let's see, where did I have mine?
45 I have.
Thank you so
45. Okay, yeah, I get my whichever one. So right page. Let me get to the right page. It's hard to chair and keep track of everything all at the same time. So yeah, there's I think it's 20,000 something.
$20,684.
Yeah. So Ms. Green, would it be? It can be round. I'm not specific, but I think it should go about where it was. So maybe I'll just make it as a motion. So I'd move that item, the grants and aid for electoral area E be changed to $12,000.
Okay.
Seconded by Director Lennox. So, and then I asked Ms. Green, does that rationale seem to make sense in terms of it would be, I don't know, it'd be $800 increase over prior year.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, yes, that does, because as you said, there was some extraordinary grants that you gave out last year that probably won't be repeating themselves in 2026.
I don't want to get in too much trouble with my constituents. That was so okay. So I will. Is there any other discussion on this motion for a change? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? None opposed. That carried. And that's my questions for now. I think I will have a lot of questions regarding the fire department, which is more than half of the Lasqueti taxes. But I think and that's where the tax increase proposed or indicated right now is higher for Lasqueti than elsewhere. But that's due in part to the uncertainty around LIVFD. So I don't think it's even the time to go into LIVFD, because until until we see more what the actuals were from last year, we won't know what the surplus is. We know, the staff are saying that the amount going into reserves isn't enough. The budget shows 75,000. Staff are suggesting 200,000, but I don't think we can have a rational discussion on that until we see what that actually looks like, and that hopefully will be in the February agenda. So I'm going to put that aside for now, and thank staff also for bringing forward the replacement of the roof on the free store. That's been an issue that's been talked about for almost a year on Lasqueti, and I've tried to explain the process through budget that takes time, so that's good to see rolling in there. I'll leave it there and maybe first ask if there anyone else who hasn't spoken yet. Director Lennox, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Just quickly, maybe for Mr. Jostovic, page 241 and 279. Just listening to the discussion, thinking about Northside Recreation, and it looks like a 9% increase year over year. And I'm thinking about, as we open this center, have we done any calculations? Is 9% going to be enough as we increase our expenses? I remember a comment recently, and it's a no-brainer, that as we have a bigger, better center, we may have some more expenses. And I guess my question is, have we done some extrapolation thinking ahead is on that 9%, or are we going to have to look for the workflow? I see a hand there from Mr. Devereaux.
Mr. Devereaux, then? Okay.
Yeah, through the chair. 9% was the figure discussed with the Lund Community Society. We actually figure that because it's only about 9 months of the year that we'll have to pay that, and most, or if not all of any of the like maintenance type items will be covered under warranty for that period.
Right.
So it's just going to be a little bit of extra cleaning of the extra space.
Thank you.
That's good. So we're going to second round. Anyone else who hasn't spoken? There's just one of us. That's okay. So we're heading into second round. Director McCormick had her. So who else would like to speak second round? Maybe I'll get a speakers list. Director Gisborne. Okay, go ahead, Director McCormick.
Thank you. Just a couple of very quick questions. Referring to page 198 and the multiple subservice summary, and this is the Texada Island Recreation Commission. I'm noticing revenues sort of almost up to 160,000, expenses of 99,000. Can you, and on the subsequent page, again, the revenues are excessive over the expenses. Can you tell me why that is? And should the revenue not be adjusted down?
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair. What we've done is we have split up the services into like sub-services. So for example, where you look at the first one is the Texada Recreation Commission, and that is on page 198. And then if you go, so that basically shows that there's revenue of 159,444, and then only expenses of 99,202. But then if you go to the page 201, that's the financial statements for the budget for the actual Gillies Bay Community Hall. So it's split up with different sections of the service. So overall, the revenues match the expenses. So yeah, so that's split up into a few pages because we have the the main recreation service, which is on 198, and then the Gillies Bay Community Hall on page 201.
So which is the right number then for revenue and expenses for that service?
So the total revenue expenses for that service is 180,766, or sorry, 159,444. And then you'll just see the expenses for each of the other areas are separate. So 159,444 is the total.
Okay, all right, thank you. And one follow-up question, if I may, Chair, regarding the mention of a Rural Services Committee, and is that already sort of in the budget? Because we haven't actually established that committee yet. We've talked about it, I think most people are in support of it, but we aren't actually quite there yet. So I'm just wondering how that's worked into the budget and where it fits.
So it's a Community Works Fund committee, but Ms. Greenan can
Yeah,
clarify where we're
Community
at with
Works
that.
Fund.
Thank you, Chair. That is incorporated in our staff costs. So when we look at the staffing levels that we need, we have to consider that will form part of our workload. So it's just incorporated in how we allocate the staff costs.
And that would start at the beginning of 2026?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Chair.
Okay, you're welcome. Director Gisborne, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. One of my questions actually has to do with the proposed Community Works Funds Committee. One of the thoughts that comes to my mind when we talk about the well at Myrtle Pond Water System, I think we should consider some contribution from Community Works Funds. So I guess my question is, do we have a timeline when we're going to have that committee in the new year, even if it's relatively short, to just kind of go over what items in this financial plan could be eligible for Community Works Funds? And then that way, when we get to draft 2 in February, hopefully that committee has made some decisions on, supporting various projects in our electoral areas for funding in addition to the budget. Is that something that's coming down the line for hopefully January, or we're not there yet?
Ms. Greenan?
I think I'd like to direct that to the corporate officer, Michelle.
Corporate officer?
Thank you. I don't have a timeline. So I could probably provide some information through director's notification.
Perfect. And my next question, switching gears to the solid waste management service. Good to see that the requisition is going down by about 18% from last year's requisition, because, well, I believe it's those tipping fees that we've increased. And just to reiterate the message to the public, we got to get the money from somewhere. It's either your front pocket when you come through the gate or your back pocket when you pay your property taxes. One of the things that I've been hearing from some folks in the rural areas is where they drop off their garbage, there's no hand washing station. And I'm just wondering, I was going to bring this up at the Solid Waste Management Plan Monitoring Advisory Committee, but that committee has not been formed yet. And I'm wondering, would it require a motion for a budget amendment, or is it such a small amount that it can just be something that's potentially added? Or is that something that folks, they're hauling their garbage out of their car or their truck, and then they look at their hands? And would a hand washing station be onerous? Would it require a motion? Just a question to our Mr. Cohenhoven.
Okay, Mr. Cohenhoven.
Thank you, through the chair. We could definitely quickly and easily provide hand sanitizer, but getting running water and plumbing at a reasonable pressure on the site would be a challenge. I would have to look into that and get back to you. This is the first time I've heard the request.
Okay. Yeah, just a thought. So I'm not going to put forward any motion or anything at this time. It's just I've run into it myself, and a few others I've also said, like, hey, that'd be nice. But if it's going to be a budget breaker, I don't think people would want to necessarily pay for that. Thank you, Chair. That's it for me.
Thank you. So I have I guess 2 more things to say. One, I'll just mention I think a hand sanitizer would be really, if it sounds easy, probably very inexpensive, and then a couple wipes or a hand, I think that'd be great. I won't ask any question, but I think that's a really good thing. I think water sounds complicated because you have to get the water there, and then you have to take the water away, and if it's not there already, that could be expensive. And I think so that's just as an idea. I want to just mention, and it's not really a question, but just to point out, the records management item. I just wanted to say I really support that. That's an aspect of the general admin. And I remember, during our facility tour last summer, the directors got a firsthand view of some of the challenges that staff face dealing with records management. To the public, you think, oh, records, that seems easy, and it's not. It's huge. It's a massive problem, a massive challenge, I should say. And I really think staff have made big strides on that, and I think that's great to see progress. And I think we need, it costs money to store it. It costs money to look through it. It costs money to keep what we need to keep. So I think I just wanted to raise that as an item that's probably very little attention paid to it outside the staff who are hauling boxes around and lifting them up and looking through them and marking them and so on. So, Director Elliott.
Thank you. I just had a question about Director Gisborne's question about hand washing. Is there water in the recycling shed? Because there's the same issue there, and I think there might be water to that shed.
Mr. Coenhoven.
Thank you through the chair. So yes, at the recycling depot, we do have a bathroom and it is available for hand washing, and we also have hand sanitizer. It's just down on the transfer station side where the garbage and the large debris goes, that would present a challenge.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So is there any other questions or discussion or motions or anything around the table? I don't see anyone putting their hands up. So that was really great discussion, and I really appreciate staff bringing this forward. I also want to thank staff for, I know the original idea was January. I think for us to get a first sight at this and to mull on it, and we can think about it over the holidays, it would be a really, really good step. And I know it was a push to get it here to us. So I appreciate that. So, Director Elliott, you have one more. We have a motion in the agenda too. So go ahead, Director Elliott.
I believe the idea was to have the January Finance Committee have it on the agenda for discussion again, so that we would have over Christmas to maybe figure out and propose motions for changes to draft 1 before draft 2 had come out in February. I think that was part of our original discussion. So will we see draft 1 on our next Finance Committee event?
I believe we will. I agree. That was what we had talked about. Ms. Greenan, was that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we plan to present, I think, just the same draft in the January Finance Committee. And at that time, I was thinking the board could also consider the grants and aid is also one that the board likes to consider separately. So I don't know if you want a separate request for that, or will you just look through and then look at where you might want to make changes to the grants and aid amounts?
Right. I don't know if we have to decide there, but I think that having that the same draft, and I suppose if there are updates from staff, they can be given verbally or added on, and mostly it's for us to mull things over and then come back with specific changes. And think about, I guess, for the board, the committee to think about whether we need a separate session for a topic like grant and aid. I already put forward my suggestion for area E. Okay, so I'll leave it there. I don't think we need to decide on that right here, but we do have a recommendation in the agenda that I think we do need to consider. Would anyone like to make that motion? Director Gisborne, is there a seconder for that? Director Lennox, that's to accept this as draft 1 and as guiding information, the proposed financial plan for 2026 to 2030. Very good. Is there any discussion? Seeing no hands up, I'll call the questions. All those in favor? None opposed, carried unanimously. We are done draft 1, which is very excellent. New business, we don't have any. We're on to question period. Is there anyone in the room or Reporter Galinsky, are you there?
Reporter Galinsky is here, Chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity to pose a question. With regard to item 8.5, the financial plan draft 1, I noted when Manager Greenan was citing tax rates and whatnot, it appears that the electoral areas are going up somewhat and the city is holding fairly stable. And I was wondering what the reason was for that.
I believe it's because the differences in the assessed rates are expected. The EAs are expected to go up relative to the city, but I'll let Ms. Greenan answer it more properly.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Through the chair. I think the main reason for that is that the city only contributes to the regional services, and we did have some major changes in the waste management service and a big decrease in the waste management service. The revenues went up and the costs went down. So we had quite a big savings there. And then so that is being attributed to the city and all the electoral areas, but then the electoral areas have the other services as well.
I thank the manager very much for that response. As a city dweller, I'm very happy. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to ask questions.
You're welcome. Lucky you. Director Elliott, you had something there?
So when the city brings their collected garbage into the Waste Recovery Center, the tipping fees will be coming included in the new rates over at the city budget, I think is why. So there's a bit of a shift of where it lands. Is that fair, Manager Greenan?
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair. Not sure exactly. So basically we will be getting more tipping fees because we've expanded the, and actually Mr. Cowenhoven, he'd probably be the best one to talk about that.
Mr. Cowenhoven?
Through the chair, thank you. I'll try and keep this brief. About a year ago, I went through the tax impact with the former CFO of the city. And just because of the way the tax requisition was based on assessment, yes, the tipping fees will go up to the city, but the city's share of taxes that it contributes to the regional district for the waste management service will actually go down more than the tipping fees have gone up. So there is a very slight savings overall when you consider the increased tipping fee and then the savings from taxes. There's a very small benefit to the city.
Yeah, it's Director Gisborne.
Yes, I'm thinking of what came up at last year's financial plan where, and I believe this was touched on with the assessed value, that essentially the increasing assessed value of the electoral areas is growing faster than, say, the municipality, and with the change of the mill's assessed value, that kind of means that the electoral areas are making up more of the pie than it was previously, and that can be one of the reasons why you see a total requisition increase from the electoral areas. Is that a correct assumption as well? Because of course, the rates are complicated of where they come from, but my understanding of one of those driving factors that we encountered last year was the electoral areas through the assessed value are making up more of the pie to make it whole. Is that correct?
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, Chair, through the chair. So basically that we thought there would be a big change with the risk, with the change in the mill's values. So for example, right now the split is 50.79%. So based on the 2025 revised roll values, the city picks up 50.79% of the regional services requisitions. And with the risk to roll, that does shift, but it doesn't shift as much as I anticipated. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up here. Here we go. Basically now, so instead of 50.79, the city now picks up 50.15. So unless the risk to roll, that is just an estimate from BC Assessment. If those values actually change further, that might make a difference, but the shift was very slight.
Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, so I think it's both those things can change. So when the relative differences in assessed value as well as the relative change in services by the different participating areas, and that's similar to why the Skeety area goes up much higher than the average because we are sensitive to small changes in local services. I think that's it for question period. We don't have a in-camera session, so we are adjourned.
We also have a whole bunch of